I'm happy to announce our next presenter, Hanna Lobchenko, PhD, Associate Professor of the Department of Forest Reproduction and Forest Reclamation at the National University of Life and Environmental Sciences of Ukraine, Senior Project Manager of the Project Branch Forest of WWF-Ukraine. And the topic of Hanna's presentation is nature-based solutions in post-war restoration.
Thank you very much. Greetings to everyone. I'm happy to see you here today on this excellent organized conference. Thank you for the association to elaborate on it and inviting so many participants, so many presenters, and covering a lot of topics. Today I would like to present a bit on a kind new for Ukraine, but not new for the world, mainstreaming of new nature-based solutions, but considering our local perspective, let's talk about it in post-war restoration. And first of all, let's try to describe what does it mean nature-based solution, and what is the origin of this term and what is the definition. This term was proposed and officially fixed in one of the report of EUCN in 2020. And a nature-based solution is considered as an action aimed at protecting, sustainably managing and restoring ecosystem for the benefit of people and nature. That means that doing any kind of actions, planning activities, doesn't matter in agriculture or in freshwater or in forestry, we are considering the aim to satisfy those requirements from the nature and people demands. So we are providing human well-being and biodiversity benefits. And to implement wider this approach on a nature-based solution, EUCN produced kind of global standard for nature-based solution, which was published in 2020 on the World Conservation Congress, and it was presented kind of framework for the verification, design, and scaling up of nature-based solution. And this framework is open to everyone. You can find out it on the website and read more detailed and so on. I would like to stress on it that it's evidence-based, science-based report, and more than 800 scientists were working together to produce such kind of the report. And nature-based solution standard is covering 8 criteria and 28 indicators to reach out goals presented by EUCN Global Standard on nature-based solutions. And on the picture, you can find out kind of adapted materials on the 8 criteria, and further we'll learn more detail about all 8 criteria of the standard. First one, covering efficiently addressing social challenges by implementing on nature-based solutions, because one of the questions to satisfy people's demand, and all these social challenges should be addressed by implementation of nature-based solutions. Also, another criteria to design nature-based solution in informed by scale. That means that it should combine different aspects of ecosystem or social economical activities and be more complex and synchronized. And another criteria is about that nature-based solution result in a net gain to biodiversity and ecosystem integrity. So it means that we need to think about biodiversity and about that connectivity of ecosystems and its integrity. Also, another point to have economical viable of nature-based solutions. Of course, if we need to spend much money, we need some profits, some benefits from it. An economical point is also important. Another important side to provide kind of inclusive, transparent, and empowering governance process. It was the side that WWF-Ukraine was working hard within the project on implementation of nature-based solutions in Ukrainian policy agenda, and of course implementing and presenting this term and this approach to Ukrainian governance of processes in different fields should be inclusive, transparent, and empowering. Criteria number 6 about the equitably balance of trade-offs between achievements and of the goals presented by nature-based solution and provision of multiple benefits. So we need to think about goals we want and interest of society to reach out to those presented goals. Also, nature-based solutions should be managed adaptively based on evidence, and science should be on the first place to provide any kind of help on decision making. So science should be leading in decision making in any kind of production, also in agricultural area. And nature-based solutions are sustainable and mainstream within an appropriate jurisdictional context. So nature-based solutions should be part of legislation, should be part of policy, part of governance, not to be just on the paper, but to be in the process or on the play. And why should we talk about nature-based solutions? There is few reasons. It's just a few among many others that I would like to cover a bit. First of all, we will talk about land structure in our country, and that also is a reason why we need to implement more and more nature-based solutions. Like consequences of previous point is the soil erosion, as a complex problem, climate change, world population growth, and our local context is affected fields, agriculture sector, and not only by war. Let's start from the first point, and let's talk about land structure. Based on different data, you can find out that approximately 70% of Ukrainian territory is used for agricultural purposes, for agricultural lands. 16% more are covered by forest, and 11% more are inhabited areas, so where people build their houses and other infrastructure elements and so on. And we have 3% more. Where is the place for nature, for natural adaptation, and for other ecosystems? That's why nature-based solutions should be implemented within other sectors we have in the country and in different types of the lands. That means that agricultural lands and agricultural production have to pay attention to nature-based solutions, as it's the less natural areas among covered with some vegetation, etc. Forests also, they are important part to provide all these benefits and criteria of nature-based solution, and having only 16% of the forest, we understand that they should be managed sustainably, achieving different goals, both economical and ecological. And here comes a lot of nature-based solutions also for forest sector. And inhabited areas or urban areas also should be the area for implementation of nature-based solutions to provide more nature in our life. Let's start about some soil erosion question. Ukraine is famous due to richness of the soils, about high content of the humus in our lands, but it's also not rechargeable, so quickly rechargeable source we have, because each yield harvesting brings loss of soil richness and needs some measurements or some treatments to restore those natural treasure we have in the country. And intensive agricultural use brings us a lot of troubles with protection of the soils and having those content of organic issue in the soil as it poisoning in the market. Another problem that a lot of steppe grasslands that are mostly situated in steppe area, where the highest number of arable lands usually turn into the agricultural lands. And we understand that those patches of nature are decreasing more and more with every day, with every year. And those systems, those patches of nature, they are kind of stabilizing points in such man-used areas. And also such kind of use of agricultural lands brings a lot of problems with water erosion, and you can find out a lot of gullies in those areas that made by intensive water stock coming from arable lands. Another trouble is wind erosion and dust storms, and it looks like some horrible movies. And dust storms is quite common stuff for Ukrainian part and steppe area. It was few intensive dust storms in last century, for example, 1960, 1969, 1984, that brings us loss of crops, of the yield and economical losses. And on the picture, you can find out the Professor Pilipenko in 1969 investigating fields after dust storm. It was one of the biggest one. And on that year, 1.3 million hectares of winter crops were affected by dust storms. And rich soil brings from the eastern southern part of the country to the north. And we lost a lot of soil and a lot of crops planted, seeded on the fields. The same situation came up to us in 2020, and probably most of you remember that year with unusual dust storm in northern part of the country, in Kyivska, Zhytomyrska, Rivnenska, Chernivtska Oblast. That means that nature comes to the north with the same troubles, and a lot of people that year again remember about different nature-based solutions like windbreaks and using of trees on the agricultural lands to protect against soil erosion. It's quite historical moments, because each large-scale efforts on planting windbreaks in our country also were followed after some kinds of disturbances like this erosion dust storm. Just few data on the scale of soil erosion distribution in our country, and would say that 1/3 part of our country is already affected by erosion, and 10% are strongly affected. So these lands are hardly used in the past and now are not appropriate for production, so they are kind of lost and require some reclamation, some treatments to back them again or to the natural ecosystem or to the production bus with some cycles of restoration of richness these soils. 10% of the lands are under wind erosion, so open soil, arable lands suffer due to winds, and we are losing some rich soil from upper top soil layer. And if we count all these losses into the possible harvested yield, it can be 10 to 12 million tons of cereals losing annually due to those affected areas by erosion. Another point that brings our attention to nature-based solution, this is the war and all those consequences that we have. It's on the picture, we just can see one of many affected fields, burned windbreaks, and a question where to plant or seek new yields, new crops, what to do with those areas. And nature-based solutions remind us that we need to follow nature and do not repeat the same mistakes we did after Second World War. For example, in forestry were planted a lot of monocultural forests without considering planting materials because of economical problems, due to another issues. And in 10, 20 years, in 30 years, we again feel the results of that solutions were made many years ago. And now we have the same challenge, and we need to think about those mistakes and need to have lessons learned and change approaches in restoration of the areas affected by the war and covered with and contaminated with unexploded ordnances. And also another trouble we have and challenge for today, it's priorities of ecological issues. You can find out a lot of information or statement that ecology is not a prior issue for the moment. We need to think about our safety, food production, first stage demands of the society. It's right, but if we pass those limits on using natural resources, in one point we can stay on the stage when we cannot have natural patches in our country, that everything is used for human demands. The same if we talk about timber for military actions or whatever demands, or production of crops. It leads to the position of the country that produce only raw materials. And we do not bring any kind of safety in this case for future of our country. And just to explain how it works, try to reach out more information about Taiwan case, small island countries that suffer a lot from different sides on Second World War, First World War, and many years after that. And in one point decided to provide some safety for itself by producing microprocessing and making like kind of monopoly on the market and providing products, not materials, not raw materials to the wall to the market. In this case, this country is more protected, having small size, but having a lot of neighbors who would like to take part of that land. And having those issue of producing unique products on the market, it brings some safety to this country in some time. Let's back to the nature-based solutions and WWF-Ukraine activities. Our team is working on different sides of implementation of nature-based solution in sector of freshwater, forest, and agricultural sector. All these projects aiming to conserve and restore various ecosystems and support people and nature. Among these projects, we can talk about surgeon initiatives to restore original genetic population of surgeons, or giving free rivers, or protecting old growth forest, or implementing agroforestry practices. And let's start to check which nature-based solutions can be used for Ukrainian perspective. First of all, quite famous and quite common for our country is using of windbreaks, linear stands among agricultural lands that can be considered in the world as agroforestry systems. It's a combination of agricultural lands for producing crops and this kind of linear stands that are protecting agricultural lands against wind erosion and many other possible hazards, and providing higher increments in the yield production. But at the same time, also these stands are important for providing habitats for biodiversity. So it's quite complex solution for providing economical benefits, ecological and social benefits. Now we understand that many of windbreaks are serving not a tool for agriculture, but tool for military actions. And also in firewood deficit regions, they are used for illegal loggings. So it's a question that we need to consider on this stage and think how we can change the situation. But anyway, it's extremely efficient nature-based solution. And just to explain how it works or how it really efficient, here is presented kind of graphical information how yield increment changes due to distance from windbreak. And here is covered wind eroded areas, dry year and average year. And if we talk about average year, maybe there is not so much difference in the yield due to windbreaks protection. But if we see the dry year, it's a significant difference. That means that in such inappropriate conditions of dry years or other natural hazards, we can get still normal annual yield of the crops. That was kind of insurance, nature-based insurance for agricultural sector. And this lesson should be learned based not only on Ukrainian experience. For example, this graph is used from one scientific paper published in United States. It's not Ukrainian one. And we have the same knowledge, the same treasure of using windbreaks on our agricultural lands. Another example of agroforestry system is a lake cropping. It's a combination the same of linear stands, usually of one row stands, and agricultural production of crops or cattle or whatever. The main difference with previous one that these rows are settled like in 20-50 meters. So it's quite narrow space between the rows of the trees. And on the left side, you can see a satellite image in one forest agriculture enterprise in United States, and you can check it yourself. Even if you search on Google Earth, you can find the same place, and you can see how it looks, a combination of agricultural lands of intensive use and those tree patches, linear stands that protect agricultural fields against different disturbances. Also can be combination of stands and not only crop production, but animal production, poultry or cattle or other kind of combinations. On the left side, you can see some chickens having ranged between fruit trees and having fun and shadow for their life or everyday life, and it brings more benefits in economical point of view and also in ecological. A few more examples of combination. It's on the right side, it's a Great Britain example of usage hazel and some other arable crops. On the left side, some Germany examples of kind of early cropping on the agricultural fields. Another nature-based solution that we consider in agriculture sector is forest landscape restoration. That means restoration of the landscape with different regime of use, with different patches of forest, of trees, of grasslands, pastures, and other areas that brings us economical, social, and ecological benefits and make system more resilient and more efficient. And not usually planting more trees means that we'll have a lot of benefits. We need to understand that population is growing anyway, and we need to produce food for everyone. That's why some part of the land still should be used for agriculture. And in this way, using nature-based solution can make this agricultural land more resilient, more sustainable, and bring those benefits and supply all the demands we have for today. Considering this approach of forest landscape restoration, you can find out more details, more information on approaches of forest landscape restoration produced by EUCN, the same. And it presented different types of restoration. It can be wide scale, can be mosaic restoration, maybe some remote restoration, and different kinds should be used, depend of the current state of the land, of the usage, of the regimes, of the stakeholders that dealing with those lands. It cannot be just wide-scale restoration all over the planet. We should still consider social questions. Another nature-based solution actual for Ukraine, it's protection of self-seeded forest. It's kind of forest that grow up on abundant areas and agricultural lands, and usually have age of 20-30 years for the moment. And if we count money for establishing the same area of self-seeded forest, it could cost us billions of hryvnias to establish new forest of the same area. It's important to save more self-seeded forest in that area that cannot be used for agriculture anymore or don't bring us much benefits and have more benefits for saving forest on these lands. We need to make more efforts to protect, to save those forests as far as they are faster sequestrating CO2, and they are more climate resilient, they are more sustainable and adapted to the actual climate changes we have for today. And also losing such forest in one day due to logging or just cutting out those natural forests that appear in abandoned areas, typical degradation of the area. Another nature-based solution we promote in WWF is protection of old growth forests that are not very saved in Europe, but in Ukraine we have quite a lot of such forests. It's about 1 square kilometer of old growth forest identified in our country. Why they are important in case of managing forest sector or whatever? First of all, these old growth forests, they are adapted to the different types of disturbances, including climate change. And these forests, they bring a lot of essential information for scientists on adaptation processes coming in such forests to apply the same approaches into the managed forest and receive more sustainable and resilient forest where people harvest timber and so on. So all these natural forests that bring essential information despite many other benefits like biodiversity. I'd like to stop a few seconds on the map of virgin, quasi-virgin and natural forest of Ukraine. You can search on internet and find detailed information on this map and check how many virgin forests and their distribution is in the country we have and learn more about it. Another solution is using forest and trees within urban areas in green infrastructure. And this satellite image show us two different layers. Green one is about the percentage of vegetation, and dark green means dense tree cover, and close to whitish is low cover of trees, and the right part with purple colors mean the temperature regime, and the darkest is the coolest area, and the whitish areas is the hottest area. Again, you can combine and see that in the places we have more trees, more forest, we have lower temperature within urban areas. And keeping in mind those heat islands we have in cities, those difference brings a lot of benefits to the society and also to the nature, having trees in our rural, urban areas. More examples of usage urban trees, urban ecosystem with trees and forests. It's not necessary to have them just on the ground. It can be on the roofs, on the walls. And just for example, some search on which tree species can be found on the roofs of different buildings bring us also information which tree species can be used for aiming to have trees on the roofs, and bring us those effects of cooling among heat islands in the cities. Also, keeping eye on wetlands and riparian forest is a complex solution both for forestry sector, for freshwater sector, as well as for agricultural sector, because those lands keep much more carbon, for example, in these ecosystems, you're keeping it in soil layer. For example, in peatlands or in the soil of riparian forest or wetland forest. It's also kind of cooling system if we have such areas along urban territories. So these areas is also important to restore and manage sustainably. And as I mentioned before, it should be more efforts, not only distributing knowledge about nature-based solution, but some efforts on elaborating legislation amendments in governance of different sectors. And within one of the projects managed by WWF-Ukraine, it was proposed some general recommendation on scaling up nature-based solution. And you will find out different information on nature-based solution in forest sector, freshwater sector, and agricultural sector. Having some introduction on nature-based solutions, some amendments in different sectors, some financial and fiscal tools for implementing nature-based solution, some standards and science-based recommendation, some decision-making on basic of environmental data, and promotion of knowledge sharing and collaboration and learning on nature-based solutions. Those reports are available both in English and in Ukrainian on the website of Nature-Based Solution. And as well, you can learn more about climate and nature-based solution on open online course that is still open on the Prometheus platform, absolutely free, but brings you different aspects of environment knowledge and things you can do to protect our nature, to learn about ecology, biodiversity, climate change, ecological policy, and nature-based solutions. More information also placed on the nature-based solution platform developed by WWF-Ukraine. It's easy to remember, NBS WWF-UA. Here you can find methodology of different nature-based solutions and some examples of already implemented activities within Ukraine or abroad, with description of the benefits, challenges, etc. It's quite simple, user-friendly, smart to search information you need. Content is developed in deep collaboration with international and local experts, specific organization working deeply in different nature-based solution implementation. And it's kind of hub of collecting data on nature-based solution that can be implemented in our country. You are welcome to use it and learn more. And still a few points to keep in our minds when we're talking about nature-based solutions and usage of nature to make our life better. Being presenting a forest team, I'd like to stop in this sector and describe some evolution of international pledges on forest and trees. In 2011 was established Bond Challenge, aiming to reforest about 350 million hectares of degraded and deforested area on the planet. And together with New York Declaration on Forest, this pledge was spread among a lot of countries, and kind of global partnership on forest restoration was established, and it was one of the tools to combat climate change and adapt to climate change. In many years, those approach was similar to different countries, to different continents, on planting more trees to restore the nature. But in 2019 was proclaimed decade on ecosystem restoration. That means that we need to think not about trees to have more ecosystem, more nature around us. We need to restore different ecosystem like grasslands, bushes, rivers, forest as well, and many others. That means that it should be complex approach. And now having this initiative of president of green country and planting 1 billion trees, it's not much about restoring other ecosystem. We need to be smart in planting more trees. It had be placed in the right space, in the right condition to have efficiency and do not harm the nature, and do not bring opposite effects. For example, do always planting trees bring help to the nature? And on these pictures, you see the same place of steppe area of Ukraine, where planted a lot of artificial forests. These forests suffer with wildfires as far as it composed by monoculture of pine stands. And after such wide-scale wildfire, some wetlands restored itself because this ecosystem wasn't adapted to the regime of precipitation in this region. And exactly steppe areas with grassland, natural grassland, more adapted to the condition we have in steppe area. And this is solutions could be used to make those areas restored and efficient and resilient at the same time. So not just plan, restore the nature, and everything is possible if we combine our efforts and together possible to make our world better. Thank you for your attention. I'm ready for your questions.
Thank you very much, Hanna, for this comprehensive approach to nature restoration. Hopefully it will be heard at governmental and also at institutional level in our country. And we have a few questions to you. What should be the steps of our Ukrainian state to rebuild the shelter belts? I think that after the war.
It's really questions that need a lot of discussion with a set of scientists, practitioners, business. We understand that people will need to have food, need to have bread, need to use fields for agriculture. But if all these open areas won't be protected against the same soil erosion, will have a loss of these resources. It's important to restore shelter belts. And first of all, we need to bring this knowledge to people who use agricultural land. 70% is a lot. And many of the lands are rented by big agricultural companies. And first of all, we need to bring this idea to the users of the agricultural land that shelter belts, windbreaks are important patches within their land they use, and they bring them benefits. And from governmental side, can be some different programs on reducing taxes or other kinds of economical benefits for farmers or agricultural users to have like kind of resources to restore all these shelter beds. Maybe some kind of obligatory action should be done by our government and required from the users of the lands, but also should be some benefits, and only money talk to such big players on the market.
Thank you very much, Hanna.